Well, it's been an exhausting 24 hours for yours truly, Stevie J, as I went to RFA 13 in Lincoln last night to interview Pat Miletich and Michael Chiavello, then did the Bellator 111 recap at 3 in the morning after I got done transcribing that interview for the Wrestling Observer. You'll see that article up this weekend. And of course, we had the UFC Fight Night from London starting at 11 a.m. this morning, so a lot of things going on in the MMA world in the last 24 hours. But let's start with Alexander Gustafsson versus poster boy Jimmy Manawa in the main event of the Fight Night from the O2 Arena in London. Gustafsson gets the TKO stoppage at 118 of the second round when he landed a vicious knee and ground and pound strikes that Manawa could not defend, forcing the referee to make the save. He did a cartwheel to celebrate, and in the post-fight interview he called out John Jones, saying he wants a rematch for the title shot, he wants another chance, and he'll take that fight anywhere, anytime, make it happen. This made up for a rather lackluster co-main event where Melvin Guillard just ran away from Michael Johnson for 3 rounds. Johnson even said as much in the post-fight interview. He won 30-27 times 2 and 29-28. We had a similar result in Brad Pickett versus Neil Seery, 30-27 times 2 and 29-28, all for Pickett. And Seery did pretty well for a guy coming in on very short notice, especially standing. But the problem was Pickett would just keep taking him down and eating him alive on the ground, and it was the takedowns and the groundwork that got Pickett the W. Now, the Roland DeLorme versus Davey Grant fight was scratched from the main card due to a late injury for Grant, so the only other main Fight Pass card fight was Gunnar Nelson versus Omari Akhmedov. This was a completely one-sided fight for Nelson, who was unloading on Akhmedov with elbows on the ground, and then to make matters worse, stood up, grabbed the guillotine, and immediately tapped him out. I mean, quick. Akhmedov wanted no part of continuing in that choke. The official time was 4:36 of the first round. We had a pretty good prelim card on Fight Pass. Ilir Latifi tapped out Cyril Diabate in what's probably his last fight with a neck crank at 3:02 of the first round. A little sad to see Diabate go out like that after a long career, but it was very good to see Latifi get his first UFC win, and he was clearly thrilled about it. Luke Barnett got the TKO over Matt Nilsson at 4:24 of the first round. Nilsson was coming in as a late replacement and looked outsized and outmatched by Barnett, so Barnett should have picked up the win, and he did. He improves to 8-0. Claudio Silva beat Bear Scott 29-28 across the board in a middleweight bout that was probably the least exciting of the entire prelims on Fight Pass. Igor Araujo beat Danny the Cheesecake Assassin Mitchell, who may have my new favorite nickname in all of MMA. And even though he got 30-27 across the board, it's not as though Mitchell wasn't trying and wasn't actually doing pretty darn well in this fight. These were close 10-9 rounds where Mitchell was going for multiple submission attempts, but Araujo is just such a crafty veteran that he wasn't going to be able to get any of them. He did the pro wrestling version of no selling whenever he'd go for a toe hold or a leg lock. Araujo would be like, "You're not tapping me with that," and he'd just sit there and wait and wait and wait until Mitchell got tired of holding it and let go, and then Araujo would beat him up. It was a fun fight. In the opener, Louis Gaudinot got a very quick choke over Phil Harris. This only took 1 minute and 13 seconds, so sorry to see Phil Harris go out like that, but not sorry to see Louis Gaudinot pick up an impressive win. Now, as for Bellator 111, we had the heavyweight tournament and a bantamweight main event title fight between Eduardo Dantas and Anthony Leone. Let's just go over these results real quick. Alexander Volkov only needed 1 minute and 21 seconds of the first round to beat Mark Halata, as he hit him with some really tough left hands to the ear that caused Halata to slump and then finished it immediately. In what felt more like a kickboxing bout than an MMA match, Peter Graham took on Mighty Mo, and Mighty Mo was actually getting eaten up by kicks for the first 2 rounds until he got a takedown and a submission in the 3rd round. Yes, Mighty Mo, the kickboxer who's won 2 K1 Grand Prix, got his 2nd ever MMA submission. The official time was 2:31 of round 3. So it's going to be Mighty Mo versus Volkov in one side of the bracket. On the other side, Ryan Martinez lost to LeVar Big Johnson at 4:22 of the first round, so Martinez is now on a 2-fight losing streak after getting all the way to the heavyweight finals last summer. Johnson goes on to face Blagoy Ivanov, who won 29-28 across the board in a prelim fight on Spike.com. In our main event of Bellator, late replacement Anthony Leone actually acquitted himself pretty well. I'd give him the first round just based on takedowns and top control, but sooner or later, Eduardo Dantas finds a way to turn that sort of thing to his advantage, and in the second round, he most certainly came out on top. He spun and took Leone's back about 3 minutes 50 seconds into the second round, went for a very sweet transition, got the rear naked choke, and just it was so deep and so tight that Leone tapped immediately. 3:53. Eduardo Dantas successfully retains. As for RFA 13, I'm just going to tell you two things, and then I'm going to let you read the report on Wrestling Observer for the rest of the details. The main event saw Dakota Cochran winning 29-28 across the board, thanks to takedowns in the first and second round. The third round, I would say that it didn't go his way. Efren Escudero was doing more on the ground, and in fact, I got a little bit of an argument with Brad Teschuk from MMA Oddsbreaker over this because he feels that Escudero was the more active fighter in the second round, but you know what? Judging still tends to favor the guy on top, and Cochran was getting those takedowns, and Escudero wasn't completing those submissions. So I can understand the argument, but that's not what the judges saw. And that's not what the crowd saw. They saw Cochran getting the takedown and taking control, so it went his way in 2 out of those 3 rounds. The other notable thing to me is that Kwani should have been disqualified for what he did to Chris Stomp Heatherly when he hit an illegal elbow directly to the spine and caused Heatherly to slump and basically not even be able to walk. I mean, he had to be carried out on a backboard. The guy could not sit up, could not stand up, could not move. The minute the referee pulled off Kwani, he just went face down. It was a pretty scary sight. So hopefully Heatherly is okay. I haven't heard anything since then, but it looked pretty bad. But that was the 2 biggest noteworthy things I'm going to mention here. Now I'll just tell you to go to Wrestling Observer to see the rest and to see my interview recap with Pat Miletich and Michael Chiavello. Signing out, Stevie J.